Stephanie.
I'm Brenda.
It's Fatima.
And we are in the room.
Finally.
We
are finally in the room.
It's been a minute.
It has been.
Listen.
And first of all, we're kicking off season 2 with answering the people's questions.
You know what
y'all
the question?
got some questions.
You know what they are? Where have y'all been? Okay, where y'all been? When y'all coming back? Is Stephanie still on her honeymoon for 5 months? Okay, because they've been trolling me. I've been trolled on every platform.
DMs,
Every time I post a picture with Ifeanyi, they'll be like, so when are we having, when are
Can
we
we get
expecting
an
in the
update,
room?
sis? Yes.
Bro, I posted an old clip on TikTok. They was like, "This cute, but could y'all please get back in the room?"
Man,
so life been lifing.
It has been, and the crazy thing is, like, in the room really invites people from all over the world
All
to
over
be
the world
in
the
this
room.
moment with
For
us.
sure,
You know,
for
so
sure.
I understand like just the questions, and so we wanted
And a lot's
to.
been happening.
A lot.
Y'all see the.
I'm saying you a whole wife out
I
here.
know.
You are a whole wife.
Wait, last
okay.
time? Yeah, you weren't.
You were not a wife yet. You were
Wow.
like engaged.
Yeah, I was engaged.
You was
And
a
so,
fiance.
Well, let's get into it, because this episode we are dedicating it to really just talking about like where have we been,
For sure.
right? And one, you know, we're gonna acknowledge that Caitlin is not with us
Right.
today.
That's the first most important thing.
Yes,
Because y'all been asking.
And don't
where
troll us
is
for the rest of the
Caitlin?
episode.
I'm not.
Okay? do not do that.
Caitlin is a solid member.
And Caitlin has become a whole wife and a,
whole
mama
wife and a
while we have been gone.
And this week, she gave birth.
Yes.
Gave birth, baby boy.
Well, when they probably see this, it might be 2 weeks that
Yeah, that's
Caitlin-
true. It'll be a while.
She is a whole wife and mama out here.
And that's even a testimony.
For
the
sure.
delivery of that baby.
For sure.
And first of all, let's tell the people how Caitlin,
Oh,
and
first of
she
all-
will tell her story and add to it. But I know she's not mad at us. Speaking for Caitlin,
She not. But
Because-
Caitlin gets a whole award.
Caitlin has
Knows-
the award for best
Secret keeper. Okay?
Like moving in silence. And just
No,
doing.
she is the epitome of don't make announcements, just do.
Just
Yes.
do.
Because Caitlin was a whole wife, dropped it in a group chat. Caitlin had a whole baby. Like, hey, y'all, I'm almost having the baby.
Yes.
Here's my registry. I trust Caitlin with
But
my
her
life.
body, you know, carried it well
For
because
sure.
nobody
You
could
didn't
tell
know.
until it was like bam in
Until
your
out
face.
there.
Until like last week.
It's like, oh,
She's good at hearing from God on what to preserve, what God is doing in a season.
Yeah.
For
For sure.
Like knowing what to share, what not to share. And I feel like people just been keeping her in prayer. And
Yeah. And I feel like that's a grace. Like, she's very clear on, like, this is my business.
Yeah.
And I think that's safe.
Yeah.
You know?
And we all need balance because, you know, I could be an oversharer, you know? So we need that.
I really feel like I wish God could give me the grace to not have to tell my business because I don't be wanting to.
You just be
No,
that's part of
it.
it.
It's part of, like, I feel like it's part of my assignment to just be telling all my business.
But even I think it's beautiful because I think with where all of us have been, there's a lesson in it,
For
right?
sure.
Because like,
Yes.
let's start with Caitlin. Caitlin literally got married, had a baby, had a baby, but in her journey of like just life changes, discretion was a huge lesson that came out of her life.
For sure.
You know,
For
knowing
sure.
the timing of what to say and when to say it. And I think that is so pivotal in life because when you have, just even when you look at it from a broader perspective, right? When you are, let's say with pregnancy, you know, she was carrying a baby. And when you're carrying something, you don't want to
It's not for everybody.
immediately open that to the public because it needs to, while it's in that like early stages of conception, you want to guard it. You want to protect it.
For sure.
You know, so that you don't allow the words of other people to cause fear or anything in
especially
your
a
own life.
first time mom. Like even like just going through brand new seasons that you're trying to navigate, that you're trying to process. I think she used discernment. She literally showed like how to navigate that season. Even her testimony, what she's been through, trusting people.
For sure.
Like she shared with us church hurt, friendship things, and I think she's learning that, and then putting first things first. Her husband, like her new
family,
wife,
for sure. Yeah. And I think it's a lesson we could apply to anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, in certain seasons, you do need to guard things, and you do need to watch who you share it with. You need to like cover it, because it could hinder how you respond to that season.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because if someone else is fearful, you probably wasn't even thinking about that. And the moment people start introducing things, now it's stuff that you're meditating on. So I respect it. I was like, even when she was sharing, it was kind of like, I love this about you.
Because she shared at a point where she was so established in it.
It's kind of like, hey, y'all.
I'm sharing not because I need your opinion, approval,
it's
or
like,
feedback.
now I'm trusting you to welcome you into this space with me. But I'm
That's
also
a beautiful thing.
But it's like, I'm also explaining to you how I want you to be a part of this season.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like a loving invitation, because when it was time to share, she's like, hey, y'all, this is what's happening, you know?
For sure.
And I felt that way even with getting engaged, or even like just my whole dating, engagement, marriage journey. Because I knew
private too.
Oh yeah, I knew I didn't want to say anything until we were so rooted in us. Because I think it's, I mean, it is a cute thing when you're dating and you're posting photos, but immediately people want to attack it. Like not even attack it,
or they feel entitled. To
from
it.
like that's the intention they're coming off. But if you notice, people get excited about breakups. People get excited about like, ooh, that happened, girl. I always knew something. And it's like, you don't want to expose something so soon that, no, let's get to know each other. Let's get rooted in each other. And then when we got engaged, then we put it out there like, hey, you know, this is happening. You know, we are getting married.
Super private.
And
then coming in public figure at this point, it's like finding that balance of you have to discern that, what to share, what not to share.
No, that was beautiful.
Tell me, what's been going on?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we've talked about Caitlin.
Wow. It's Brenda's turn.
Brenda.
Wow.
And share, but like, I think
there's some tea I want to know.
I'm trying to figure it out.
Because I think even as you share, there are things that we can extract from it that people would even just be blessed by, including us.
I don't know. All right. So where have we been? I don't know where we have been. I can tell you where I'm at currently right now. If I could be completely transparent, I feel like I have just blown my entire life up as I know it, just with the word of God.
Way.
Yeah. No, I don't feel like it's in a bad way at all, but it is for sure. I set off a bomb to my life. So I actually have like transitioned from the church I was working at, and I'm on a.
This is new information. I'm learning this with y'all. Okay.
No, for sure. I at the most like randomest time, I was on a journey, which I've actually publicly shared, like on a journey of becoming a pastor. And God changed the script on me really quickly. I was moving out of my apartment, about to move into another one, sign another lease, like be consecrated as a pastor. And God's like, hey, could you just trust me real fast? Like, and really flip the script. And was kind of like, so I gave a notice. When I'm trying to think of the timing of I'm about to transition and kind of be a nomad. So I'll live between California and Chicago and kind of on this journey to trust God. Like, if I could give it like a theme, team was all like, wait, what is happening? No, it's like super duper new. But I feel like I'm just like, I'm in a journey to trust God. Like, I guess what people would consider ministry. Like, I'm just throwing my life at everything that God's, like, throwing it all into what God's leading me to do. So, yeah.
So it's like gonna unravel.
It's literally like, I used the Martin Luther King quote on his birthday. That's like, faith is taking a step when you can't see the staircase.
Yes.
That's like literally my life right now. Like, every step of obedience unfolds another step. Like, I literally am going blind. Like, that's how it feels in this season. Like, I can't see a thing. I don't have a plan. I just know, like, literally, I feel like God's asking the question, like, will you just trust me? Wow. And I feel like with every step, I'm like, because every step unlocked another, like, step. It was like, I couldn't get the next one without taking a step. And so I was like, wait, I asked for 3 levels of confirmation. It's like waiting on the last one. And I kept feeling like, I need to do something. I was holding on to my apartment. I hadn't released it yet, the new one. And then the moment I sent
you just moved into a new one?
No, I'm in the process. I moved in 2 days. Like, I'm moving in 2 days, putting my stuff in storage and just kind of wherever I end up, kind of thing.
Yeah. But
that's fun though. I mean, that's
Tima, don't be inspired.
No, because that is about to be my point. Because, okay, what I love so much about Brenda's journey and the story of it is because it's not like a general story.
Yeah.
It's unique to her calling.
For sure.
It's unique to her life.
For sure.
It's unique to her assignment. There's a faithfulness of God that has always shown up in the as you go. You know, like, hey, Brenda, you're going to be here. And you know that. Like,
It's a pattern. It's a pattern. It's the way that God has dealt with
that has moved, like, hey, you're going to be here for X, Y, and Z. You're not. She's known, like, when she's going to be in a place for a period of time. And so the part of trusting God is like, okay, now that you've been in a place that you love, and God, you already knew this is going to be temporary. It's going to be temporary.
For sure. But
and then God is like, okay, now it's time to go. It's now like, okay, let me trust God and make that move. Because I think someone could be listening to that and that could seem exciting. Yeah. Like, God, I want to, but if God did not tell you that,
there's not a grace for that,
you are going to end up homeless.
It's not. No. Yeah. And I was just about to say that. No, for real. You will be homeless.
You will be homeless.
And broke. And you know what I'm saying?
If it's not your grace, it's not a general thing.
It's not a general thing. The general thing is when God tells you to do something, do it.
But
it will look differently for everyone. And I'm glad you said that, because what I'm saying could sound exciting to some people. To some people, it sounds extremely irresponsible and crazy. Mainly to my parents. It's like, girl, what are you even saying, right? But it has been the pattern of God in my life. It's the way. It's literally how I got to LA. It's how I got to TBN. It's how I got to One LA. It's how I got to Centerpoint. It's the pattern of God in my life. And literally, what is normal to everyone else is actually a disservice to my calling for me. Yes. So whereas most people look to get to a place to plant and find roots, and this is where I need to like be faithful, my faithfulness is never to a place, it's always to God and his word and what he's saying for this season. And I've tried to make homes. I literally have tried to be like
put in the
this
work
is where
too.
I'm at. I was getting extremely comfortable because I only thought it was going to be a year. And then when it went past a year, it was like, maybe God is saying like plant roots here. So then I'm like, okay, cool, we here. And then God's like, hey girl, who said that? Like, but because it didn't happen in the time I thought it was, and I thought God was like, oh, this is where I'm staying. And so I would say like, listen to a word that God is, what I'm learning this season is like, listen to God's word and what you feel like he's saying, but also God, there's patterns. Yes. And for me, it has happened the same exact way. Like there's a word, and then there is an unsettling, and then there's if you don't go from here, girl. And I've experienced the not going. Yeah. Before moving to California, I got a word a year before that. And then a year later, all hell broke loose. And I was like, ooh, I don't sit on the word no more. And so I think it's like understanding the patterns and also understanding your calling, right?
Yes.
That's deep, because even saying that, all that speaks to is your intimacy with God.
That's right.
And knowing him and knowing how you and him function together.
Yeah.
Because like, even when you're saying that, the thing that came to mind is our episode, Familiar is Not Safe, because familiar is safe.
For sure.
When the familiarity is God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like what's happening right now is familiar to you under God, because under God, because it's like, this is how God moves with me. Now, God can change formulas with you too, because God always wants us sensitive to like, I'm doing a new thing.
It is different.
No, this is
different because
different.
The move to LA, I was not established in anything. I didn't have, you know what I'm saying? This is like, there's another option that allows me to be not content, but complacent. In a sense that there are two paths I could have taken. There is one that is like secure and stable and familiar, and then there's the path with like that I am familiar in pattern wise, but I don't have a clue what it looks like. Yeah. And so it is like, what I recognize in those two paths is that there's one I could live completely without God, because I understand how it flows. I've gotten in a rhythm. I know what this looks like. I know how I need to show up. Yeah. There's a path. So although it seems right to everyone else, it is a path without God, because I don't need him in it. which is really weird, but that's what it
you
feels.
You could use your wisdom to sustain it.
100%. Yeah. This requires total, complete dependency on God.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's like sometimes what feels like, oh, this is for sure God, because it is on the list of the patterns of life. This is what happens. It's like, oh, you launched in a ministry, you're preaching. For sure, it's to become a pastor and plant at a church and then maybe get a church. And I'm all like, that sounds good to you, but if God ain't with me, it sounds terrible.
Exactly.
It sounds horrible.
Exactly.
And so it's kind of like being able to separate what everybody thinks is best with what normalcy looks like for everyone, and being able to say like, no, and which has been my conversation is like, this actually has nothing to do with the place I'm leaving and everything to do with the fact that if I stay here, I'm doing it without the grace of God.
Yeah.
Because it has completely lifted.
Like your conviction is not.
No, it's me. I'm doing it in my own strength, which is why I was drained. Yeah. I completely couldn't show up. I have no creativity. I have no ability to speak into anything because the grace of God has lifted. Because it's time to go.
It's good you're talking about that, because I think it's also good to clarify the difference between when you don't have a grace to function in a place
and frustration
versus when you're frustrated in a place.
For sure.
Because that is easily confused.
Yes. Yeah. And think, oh, well, I'm mad here, so maybe it's time
to go. And that is a very good point, because I've experienced both of them.
Yeah.
And the difference is when there is a grace for even the frustration.
Yep.
Because I'm not even a easily frustrated person. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff will irritate me, but I'm usually like, okay, cool, whatever. It is when the smallest things send me in a whirlwind.
Yeah.
And I can't recover. Then there's like, okay, and it's not that the place is bad. That's how God gets my attention, because I'm an extremely loyal person.
Yeah.
And I always consider, not in a people-pleasing way, but how my decisions affect the people around me.
Yeah.
So the first thing, especially in serving in a ministry in a certain capacity, the first thing I'm asking is, what does this look like without me in it? And sometimes very easily pride can show up in that, right? Because you feel like, well, I'm the answer to this. And if I'm gone, how they gonna function? When we're not recognizing like there's a God who you could also be holding that up.
Yeah.
And so that is so true, because there was a part of this where I was frustrated. And I had to go to intimacy with God and say, hey, God, even my frustrations, I'm giving them to you in this moment, because I need to be able to hear you clearly beyond all of that.
Yeah, because frustration is driven by emotions.
Emotions, for sure.
And that's what I think is good for people to discern between that.
Yes.
Like if you're in a place that you are frustrated, or to even know the difference between frustration and I don't know if the grace of God is here, is one, is it my emotions that is taking over?
For sure.
Because when my emotions are taking over, that's just you. But grace, I love that you said the little things bother you, because when the grace has lifted, it has nothing to do with you. You can't trace it to an event.
Nope.
You can't trace it to a person.
Nope.
You trace it to you.
Yes.
It's just like the little things that would have been the easiest things for you to do feels like
it's a burden
that you can't shake off.
And
waking up to go to the place is like, oh my gosh. But I think for everyone listening, if you can trace your frustration to an event or person, don't go nowhere.
No, it's frustration.
It's frustration. It's not grace.
It is the enemy trying to get you off. And that is. I'm so glad you said that, because it easily happens.
Oh yeah.
And it's like how I can usually tell the difference is, the crazy thing is, frustration comes first.
Yeah.
And I am always like, nope, this is frustration. You know what I'm saying? Because I know what it is. It's like I'm irritated, and usually like in 2 days I'm over it. You know what I'm saying? Kind of how I recognize a difference is I recognize the graces that I carry. Yeah. So in a sense of like, I'm extremely creative, I'm sharp, I'm quick. I could, jump in to get a problem solved pretty quickly. And when those things are not dull, they're dull, I can't activate them. I'm meeting with my team and I don't have anything for them.
You pay attention to that.
Yeah. So this is not even about, it's actually everything is going great and I've shown up to work and there's a weight on me. Yeah. Like I can't function. This is now, I feel like I can't breathe, and it's not, nobody has done anything.
Yeah.
This is a normal day. I just had 2 weeks off on vacation and came back like, oh, I recognize this and I have grace for it. You saying stuff, it don't even make sense.
And then you take time to pray.
Pray into it.
You pray into it to figure out, like, God, and even just like you said earlier, there were 3 confirmations
for sure.
There's
that you asked for.
Even if the instruction doesn't come with like what you just said about the staircase, even if the instruction doesn't come with the outcome of the step, it comes with the step.
For sure.
God is telling me to step out. Okay. I don't know what's over here, but I know I have to step out. You're right, because emotions get in the way. I'm stepping out, I'm going to see what happens. And then it's like faith and understanding these things, intimacy with God. Because you'll feel that confirmation. You'll feel that if you get it wrong, there's a grace to even come back.
For sure. Yes. For sure.
Because that's just how God moves. If you're supposed to be somewhere. And you're seeking his will.
No, and usually the first step is not leaving. No. That's not the first step. And if that is frustration and those are your emotions driving that.
Because you want to sit and know, God,
and I was just about to say,
you saying?
Yeah, my first step was a fast. Yeah. My first step was shutting it all down. My first step was like, hey, let's just be quiet. Let's just sit here on the couch.
And you're open-minded.
Yes. You haven't concluded like, oh, it's time to go.
It's time, and I'm just fasting so that God could empower me to leave.
And usually your flesh is fighting it. Yeah. It isn't not even really, I was fighting to make it me. You know what I'm saying? I was fighting to go like, this is me doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was frustrated. This is me. Usually I'm trying to talk myself out of it. And I feel like in the decisions was like, I wasn't making decisions in the opposite direction of what God was doing.
No,
and
this
Grace
is so good.
Stepped in and stopped it. Yeah. I literally, like, Stephanie will tell y'all, it was weird because God was giving me urgencies to do things, and I thought I was doing things in order to stay, and he really was creating urgencies for me to leave. Yeah. Wow. So I'm like, one day I felt this urgency to go get another apartment. So I go visit an apartment. I did the application. I got approved the same day. I was supposed to move in 2 weeks. Soon as I got approved, they called back and said, actually, ma'am, that apartment isn't available. You can't move until February. And I was like, that's weird. Like,
that is weird.
It was weird. And so, like, when stuff like that starts happening, it's like, okay, I was supposed to get consecrated in January. Then it got moved back to February. So then when things start, like, I'm moving in the direction that God's sending me and then stuff is getting weird, then that makes me go, okay, God, what are you trying to say? Yeah. It's not an immediate decision. I'm not even about to try to make it up. It's like there's certain things that God will do to get your attention. And even though it could disappoint people, there's even a grace for everything. Things started lining up. So where I'm like, no, I can't. My team started performing on their own. Like, we got back from break. They like setting stuff up. They're creating meetings. They're like, everything is flowing without me. So now I'm going, okay, God is saying something. And every question that I would have asked that would have said, God, are you sure? He answered it before I could even utter it out loud. He's like showing and highlighting things. Like, things just started to align. And so I think, like, if you're trying to decipher what it is, there's always a peace. Yeah. Like, even in the midst of uncertainty, there is a peace that comes from God that's like, after every step you take, things will just fall into place. And so I think that's kind of how you tell it. I can tell when I'm trying to make a decision out of frustration because it's me trying to do stuff. Yeah. Instantly. Trying to manipulate I'm all on. When I'm mad, the first place I'm going is LinkedIn. I'm going to LinkedIn and I'm getting on the
and I'd be like, Brenda, what you doing?
I'm all like, I found this and this sounds great. And it's like, and again, it goes back to, I be all at LinkedIn. I be sending text messages. I texted Tima. I'm all like, Tima, hey, you know somebody that do something that sounds like this? I did. It was random. It was like, what are you doing? And it goes back to the patterns of God. Yeah. Everything that I've ever walked into, God walked into me.
And look how fruitful it's been for you.
Exactly.
For sure.
So that speaks. That's also, I feel like, a way of showing like I was in the right direction because God, the fruit
speaks.
The fruit speaks for sure.
But I love that so much because I think that is a very pressing area just in Christianity in general. Because one thing I would say, even with your journey, is every time there was like the need for a move, the heart posture was in a way that you could go back. Yep. It was not just this conclusion of, okay, I'm fasting so God can make it clear for me to leave. It's like I'm fasting so that because I'm open-minded about God. What are you doing?
Like I have this impression. So you can admit that there's something.
But God, what is it that you want me to do?
And I'll do whatever.
And I think that and it's so important for people to understand that that heart posture of I'm open either way.
For sure.
In truth.
For
not,
sure.
Not in theory.
No.
In truth.
Because in theory is the Christian thing to do.
It's good to say.
Yeah,
God, whatever you want to do,
because
I'm open to it.
It's in truth. Like when your heart is in a place that, God, I could stay or I could go. Mm-hmm. That is when you're actually ready.
It's the best.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's
less pressure, if you're not there,
you're not
stay.
going.
You're not. It's not.
You're
time.
not going nowhere.
It is.
It's not time. No, it's so true. It's so true. It's so crazy because I remember having a conversation with Dr. Anita right when I first transitioned.
Yeah.
And she said to me, she said, "The moment you love it is the moment that God will release you."
Wow.
And it couldn't have been a truer statement. This has been like hard. Mm-hmm. Because there's people, there's
there's gonna be grief.
There's relational equity there. It's kind of like, man, like it's a hard. I genuinely love that place. Like its center point is a part of me. Like it's in my heart. You know what I'm saying? And it has been hard. And usually when it's a God thing, it'll be hard. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like not like, bye y'all, you know, like, and nobody was happy to see me go. You know what I'm saying? Nobody was like, "Ooh, we so glad that girl gone." You know what I'm saying? And so I think that is it. It's kind of like, and the other thing I was about to say is that like you cannot make decisions like this alone. Yeah. You need community. And there is safety in counsel. So not only did I feel like, okay, I have these feelings, I also submitted them to mentors. I submitted them to community. I submitted it to my parents. I submitted it to like, this is what I feel like God is saying. But if you hear something different, for sure, like I'm open to whatever we are all, you know, collectively feeling like we're hearing God and being okay with like whatever
people you trust.
Yeah. For sure.
Hear from God.
Yes.
Too.
And it has to be, and maybe not somebody who just like hypes you up.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, or because sometimes those people ain't really trying to see you prosper. Sometimes those people just mad at their own life and want you to be where they are. And so you have to be very careful. I'm not telling everybody, I haven't shouted it from the rooftops, you know what I'm saying? Like, but a very like close, like, okay, this is what I feel like God is saying. And then I love how God didn't even, he released me in certain times of when I could share it with some person. It all started with God. Like 3 weeks with just like, no, I want to reconcile what I feel like you're saying before I even share it.
That's right.
And each step of the journey was like, okay, now share with this person. Okay, now talk to this person. And I feel like the timing of it. And then some people he wouldn't release, like Stephanie, until I made certain decisions.
Yeah, because we would talk. She's like, we will talk about it. And I had been in prayer, you know, for what was taking place. And God will not release me to tell her what he had showed me.
She just kept saying, don't make any final. You might want to be careful before you make any final decisions. She would check every week, like, did you sign that lease? She's like, because I just, you know, and I'm all like, hey, bro, what did God say? She's like, you know.
But isn't it crazy how when I called you finally to talk, it was right after.
It was right after I had
you sent an
got
email.
rid of the apartment.
Yes.
It was literally like I could feel that it was something I needed to do.
Because she did it, and then like immediately she
soon
did
as
it,
I hit send on the email,
told me,
Stephanie
call
called.
Wow.
It literally was, I was talking to another friend and I literally said out of my mouth, I was like, you know, I just feel like I need to just, because that's another thing. Like you don't get to waver in between.
Yeah.
Because that is what I was doing. It was like, I could feel like I was saying one thing, but I didn't really know. So I was like holding on to everything.
Yeah.
I hadn't
if you said something too soon,
then it would be,
you would have held on out of respect even for that. But God needed you to get it.
Yes.
For sure.
And that was the thing. Because I knew very clearly that it had nothing, if the foundation first had to be what the voice of God to her, and then there will be clear confirmations around that.
And it was,
confirmation always has to be secondary.
Yes,
exactly.
For sure,
not primary.
And that's what it was. It was like I knew what God had said, but I didn't take a step towards it. And so it was like I didn't really receive it all the way. And so I literally was talking to another friend, and I was like, I just feel like, you know, God needs me to settle this in my heart. And she said, no, he needs you to settle it in action. She said, because you've already settled it in your heart.
Good.
She said, because faith without moving is dead. It actually, I was like, whoa, don't preach me a sermon. I mean, like, she went in and I had an attitude. And I was like, first of all, I didn't ask you for this. I was like, all right, let me call you back. I literally sat on the couch for like 3 hours. I was battling because I knew letting go of that apartment was it. Ain't no going back. And I finally, it was 2:58. and I sent it in an email. And as soon as I hit send, Stephanie called me at 3:00.
That's the power of the Holy Spirit.
And literally, it wasn't even like a long, because usually we play on the phone. It wasn't even like a long thing. It was just like, so how are you feeling? About this?
Stephanie?
And I'm all like, and then it was crazy because it wasn't much. It was all coming from me.
Yeah.
I was like, here's what I feel like God's saying, da da da. And I'm like, and I just done blew it up. I done detonated the bomb because I don't got a place to live now. And so then she was like, yeah, no, this feels like alignment. And the real reason I was holding on to the apartment is because I just knew Stephanie was not going to agree with what I was saying. I just knew she was going to be like, go and hang out in Chicago for 2 months. That don't even sound like the Lord. I just knew so I was like, I need to have this apartment because when I talk to Stephanie, she gonna be like, Brenda, that ain't the Lord.
And I'm excited for what's even gonna unravel, whatever it is.
No, for sure. It's like there is like this super. I'm so excited. Man, and scared.
I feel like
excited.
people are gonna watch the unraveling of Brenda.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's there's something that even our in the room family, like we're gonna see this blossoming of what God is doing with your life. Because I had shared with her, there was a dream I had about her, but it wasn't her announcement. It was like her spiritual announcement. And
that's why you probably went through the pastorals.
For sure.
Like, exactly.
So I took the classes.
Yeah. So there was an announcement of her calling,
Wow.
And in that announcement, that's why I was like, when you study the pattern of God, because even when she shared like, hey, I'm going to be I'll be in Chicago for 2 months. And I'm like, no, that sounds about God. Because even in Jesus, like right after Jesus was announced, he's led to the wilderness. So whenever there is this clarity of this is who you are, God goes from there to wilderness.
Which is preparation.
So that you can, because the wilderness is the process for you for all the stuff you're not to be chiseled away, so that all that you are could settle in and be established, so that when God now releases you out of the wilderness, because literally once Jesus came out of that thing, it said his fame went across everywhere. Yeah. Because now he's not going to be...
He was a nomad.
and he won't be defined by the fame.
Sure.
He was defined by his calling.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I feel like even for people listening to this, like, man, you might feel like God just gave you this powerful dream. A prophet prophesied to you. You received something. And then your life went... back chaos.
Your life,
it went backwards.
You said,
but when you know
it's
God,
purposeful.
It's like
for sure.
When you know God, you get excited.
Yeah,
for sure,
it's like this is God.
No, you get excited.
It's not a loss. It's not a loss. It's really a test of your heart posture.
Yes,
because when God announces it and then sends you to the opposite, it's like, so was your faith in me or that word?
Or exactly.
Or how you thought it,
what you wanted
it to be. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, it's so crazy. I was sharing, like, I keep getting this picture of like a slingshot. Mm-hmm. And there's like what a slingshot does is like, it's the tension of that pullback. But the more tension created,
boom,
the more momentum. And it's like, that's what this season feels like. It's
deep
like
roots.
That tension of, higher you grow. And so it's like, man, I can rest in that. It's like, there's this excitement, like, not about me, but like, I'm like excited to go on this journey with God. Yeah. I literally preached 2 weeks ago. I'm like, why did I say that out loud? I'm all like, when I think about 2023, I want to walk with God. He said, okay, let's do it.
Come on now.
He said, come on, let's do it. I said, ooh, we really about to walk. Because that's really what this is. It's just like, it's just me and him.
It's crazy, the cries of our heart, even when we say that. What does that really mean? What are we saying when
he said, let me show you.
He said, let me take you at your word.
Because that was on a Sunday, and then the Tuesday I was giving my notice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ooh, child. Okay, Tima.
Where you at?
Where you been, girl?
Honestly, everything you share, it's different. Because it's funny, it'll be the same, because it's the same God we serve. So it's the same thing, but it just looks different. So I've been in, it is a wilderness. And I believe what's different, even if I think about my career and all that, God ain't letting me go nowhere. Mm-hmm. That's the difference. God is having me stay put. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because it's still fruitful. That's how I know.
Yeah.
Like, even in my job, and it's funny, I was in prayer about it. And just because it's like, I've been there 7 years. So I'm like, sounds about right. Like,
you said number of completion sounds like work. Eventually, you said the work is complete.
7. You know, we be making up.
We do. We can find good words to align with our foolishness sometimes.
Where it feels like this sounds about right, but it's funny because and being in a wilderness place and seeking God that way, some things we put on the back burner. Like, you know, I'm seeking God about this thing, my friendships, or whatever I desire to focus on. I decided to put my career in prayer, and the momentum that came out of that was ridiculous.
Wow.
And I feel like sometimes you could be called to a God thing, but you got stagnant. It doesn't mean that God's not in it. So it's like your message, but different. It's not God's not in it. That grace is still on you, but what are you doing with the grace?
Yeah.
So where are you seeing the grace? So I feel like...
because Tima, it's almost like you're even talking about like, even you have grace to function somewhere, but what happens when you're distracted by your dream?
For sure.
That's good.
That's the whole thing.
It is good.
Or what God has shown you, because we all have vision for our life.
Yeah.
But vision is not for us to manipulate to bring into fruition.
Exactly.
So good.
And the very thing you may be running away from or ignoring or not seeing the value in, just because of whatever season you're in, could be the catalyst to whatever thing.
It's the thing
that
leads to the thing.
It might even be the thing.
For
but
sure.
If your idea of the thing is convoluted in your own desires.
Man, I was on a podcast, right? And it's my brother, my family at Generation One podcast. And we brought up this scripture about when it says, it is the glory of God to conceal a thing, and it's the glory of kings to search it out. And one of the things we talked about is how God's nature is to hide things
in himself.
And it is and it's lovely that it says is the glory of kings, because what causes you to rise as a king is that searching it out. And many times God would hide your breakthrough, your dream, all this stuff. He would hide it in a mundane thing. He would hide it in the thing that you feel is boring, in the thing that you
think you're a master of, and you're not.
Exactly, because it's just, even in the nature of God, when it says like God uses the foolish things to confound the wise. And so in our wisdom, we feel like, okay, if this is the career path I want to go on, if this is the path I want to go on, well, this is what makes sense for my life. But again, going back to the whole thing about grace, if you have grace to function in the mundane thing, in the boring thing, you have to pay attention to that, because there is something that God has concealed in it that is actually one of the biggest blessings that you will need in your life.
No, it's perfect. The perfect example of that, which we hear all the time, is David. David didn't become a king in the palace.
No,
David got anointed and went back to being a shepherd boy.
His kingship was hidden in being a shepherd.
Because what was his moment of revealing? Were all the things that he learned in the wilderness to be able to show up.
It's now applied.
And when he defeats Goliath, then they recognize.
Exactly. Oh, hold up.
Hold on. Who is that? No, it is so true.
And that's why we have to, we can get, and that's why the enemy loves us to get caught up in self.
And what things
look like. And that's why even like God,
take it for granted.
Take it for granted. God has literally laid out the blueprint. Even when he says walk by faith, not by sight. Because what you see is not how God sees it.
It's never going to align.
It's crazy. Even, I'm telling you, the testimony is this week. I came in with a different mindset.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's weird talking about my job, but whatever. I came in with a whole different mindset where I was like, I am showing up to work. It's crazy because you could show up every single day.
You could be there.
Everything on your to-do list
is done.
And not be there.
I showed up and I was like, I've been here every day. How was I not showing up? Authority, open doors, being invited into new meetings, being this gatekeeper I knew I was. But why all of a sudden? Because guys, like, you met the need, like you you saw where my grace is. You were trying to create grace in spaces I don't have you in because of your assumption of when a season is over.
You were wasting the grace.
There's no timeline with God. God has people stewarding over churches for 30 years for a reason. We in this new culture think, and then some people are a place a year for a reason. There is an individual grace, and there's something to be birthed out of it, and he'll continue to reveal why. In my job, I'm a gatekeeper. Funny, I was a gatekeeper at church, but I am truly a gatekeeper. And it's like, if a gatekeeper isn't paying attention, what's coming through the door?
For sure.
Exactly.
For sure.
What's coming through? If you're not on alert, what's coming through the door? God got me back on alert, and he's like, you were showing up, but you weren't here.
And it was you engaging
That's like showing
that
up
grace
to a job like as a guard, and you're like,
Sleeping.
I'm a gatekeeper, and you're like, what up?
Yeah.
Oh, they seem straight. Filled in my time card, did what I was supposed to do.
And you
now
just
you're
let people with arms.
with things on them just coming through the door. Like,
no,
it's just crazy how it's like you can be somewhere, you could think you're doing the thing, but there's something that has to be activated within you. And I feel like,
ooh, and I love that you said that, because there is a grace, but it's your partnership with the grace. Sure. It's recognizing like, no, God has given me grace for this.
It's there, it's right here.
But it's not like a superpower that comes on without your willingness.
No. Even superpowers need an activation.
It needs to be activated.
That's
exactly.
good.
So you have to partner with it.
For sure.
And it's like, okay, I have the grace to show up for real. I have a grace to, because even back to your point about when you recognize that you are losing creativity, then it's like, what's going on? Because you could be in meetings and some people are struggling with an answer and it's literally on your lip. Yeah. But because you're just like, man, I'm just tired of this job.
For sure.
That you don't want to speak up.
Because I've been there.
But it's in your mouth.
It's there.
The wisdom, the Holy Spirit is just giving it to you. But you're so not even confused. You're so blinded by this idea of your dream. This idea of the life you should have.
For sure.
That you miss the fact that there is something concealed where I'm in that is for me. And I feel, and not even I feel, that was my story. You know, even with coming to one and God telling me, hey, I'm going to raise you as a minister in this church. But the first instruction God gave me was to serve as a volunteer. And everyone around me, my family, is like, this does not make sense. Mm-hmm. This is foolish. Like, you're telling me that you dropped your whole life to serve as a volunteer in church because God told you to do that? And I'm like, that's what God said. But he hid what the fullness of his word in the thing that looked foolish. He concealed the treasure in the thing that looked foolish. Yeah. And so I could not look with my sight.
God gave me by saying that, because I wasn't even, oh goodness, that is big. I forgot the vision as to why I'm even where I'm at.
For sure. But that's... No.
Because you're speaking to that. That's why you're speaking that way. Anyways, I completely forgot.
But that's the thing, because I think we lose sight. Because it's like,
sight.
A word led you to where you are. A word led you there. And you were like, oh yeah, God, let's do it. And then when it stopped looking
emotions take over.
You thought it was going to look like, now you like... No, Lord, this taking me away from what you said. He like, no, I didn't change my mind. I said what I said. And could you align with that? And I think that's the thing. We get very much so distracted on what we feel like we're missing out on. And it's like, dang, God, you put me over here and life is happening. That's why we can't allow what we see other people do distract us from what we know God said to us.
Because what's the heart of why we're even doing what we're
doing?
To serve.
Exactly.
To be a best.
For sure. It's like not about us.
It's not for highlight.
And that's the thing. We get lost in what about me? Because I can say that. You said being distracted by a dream. I be confused a lot. Like, sir, I moved to LA. I could preach in Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? Like, this make sense.
Yeah.
But then I literally watched a video before I moved to California where I said if I would have moved in 2014, it would have been about the industry. but I know that I'm going this time is for ministry. It came out of my own mouth. It was a word from the Lord. Wow. And then when I got here, I forgot because LA feels like we be forgetting. But on the other side of it is that the desires of my heart were still concealed in my step of obedience. Because what I felt like I was losing, God opened up those doors in my step of obedience in what felt like a different direction. And he continues to do that. It happened again. I'm like, all right, blowing up my life. We about to go do this ministry thing. And then he unlocks a door that aligns with the dreams of my heart. I feel like I consistently live Matthew 6:33. I'm seeking what God said, what he wants, what he desires for his kingdom. And then it says all the other things will be added, which means the things that I would disobey him to chase, he'll give them to me if I just trust him and do what in the best way.
I love it when it says that the blessings of the Lord comes without sorrow.
For sure.
Like they come without, you don't have to compromise your integrity. No. You don't have to compromise your identity, your call, none of that. And the crazy thing is that we have to trust that the reason that sometimes there is this dream in our heart that we can't shake, God placed it there. And it's not, if it came from him, it's to trust not only his wisdom, but his way. How it would manifest, his way and his timing.
Yes.
Because there is a timing
like that Joseph.
It would align everything in your life. That you might be feeling like, oh my gosh, I need to start now because the grind is going to take me 5 years. When God aligns perfect timing.
Ain't no grind.
There's no grind.
There's a grace.
Exactly. That thing can take 5 days.
There's favor. There's like so much that comes with it when you're tapped in.
Yes, for sure.
And showing up. But when you're not, you're just like, this comes easy to me. Why? You've switched from servant mode to self.
For
this
sure.
isn't serving me.
It's not serving me.
It's no longer serving me. I'm going to find something that's talking in our culture, we got to put an end to it.
We got to kill that.
This is no longer serving me.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to.
It's not supposed to serve you.
Not
Your life is in service to others.
Sometimes it could feel that way if a grace has left. So it's like, it's not serving God's purposes anymore.
For sure.
That's different than it's not serving me. Okay. But aren't you here as a servant?
Exactly. Because we have to recognize it as what it is.
Yeah.
If I'm here on assignment, there's something that needs to be done and I'm the vehicle. If I am distracted, it's not getting done. It's the enemy's design to make you think that something over there is more important.
It's more important.
He said, yeah, for sure. Focus on this. And he will present things for you to be distracted with, because then whatever you are supposed to do here, especially in your case, is highly important. And so he's like, no, of course, I'm going to throw everything in there to make sure this doesn't get done.
Doesn't come to
steal, kill, and destroy. That's always his MO. That's his MO in every area, and in every aspect. He steals time. Yeah. He kills assignments, and he destroys environments because we are distracted by things. Yeah. And so I think we have to be more focused. Like that's why I'm always like, it's really about relationship.
Wow.
And people need to get to the root of
what's driving
you, because I think our culture thrives on vague sayings.
For sure.
Because even like the saying of it's not serving me, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, take some time to sit with yourself and think about what you're saying. Because what is not serving me means, what is that shaped by?
For sure.
What is that motivated by? Is that motivated by how you compare yourself? Is that motivated by, well, where I want to be in my life right now and where I am or whatever? Like what? And then when you go to the root, you realize the selfishness, the pride, the ego, the inconsideration. You start seeing how so much of it is actually void of the spirit.
For sure.
Amen, yes.
It's like it is. I love that you said getting to the root of it, because sometimes we have to ask ourselves the hard questions.
Yeah.
And so I remember when y'all had went to the Merge Awards. Ooh, let me tell you, I was hot because I had to take a class to, an 8-hour class. And I was really, really like, I was planning to go. We had makeup, we had clothes, and God was like, no. And I had an attitude. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then I had to sit and ask myself, what's driving it? Why are you mad? Because if he said go, that's the bottom line. And I had to get to the root of like, well, I'm trying to be on the red carpet. I'm trying to be my girls. We prayed for this. We prayed for this. And then I asked a question like, do I really need to go to this class? Is it necessary for the assignment? And he said yes. And I had to have an honest conversation to say that no, ego is driving this moment. You know what I'm saying? Like we trying to flex. We trying to do it together. Like, okay, that doesn't override the assignment of God on my life. And so I had to submit that to God. I had to surrender. I had to be honest and be like, yeah, this really is for the flex. You know, like, we just got to call it what it is. And I think, like, we got to stop pretending with God. We got to stop pretending with ourselves and sit and go, like, why are you so mad? Yeah. And before I could go in that class, I had to get that together with God. Like, if I'm saying my life is surrendered and submitted to you, then I got to do that. I got to roll with it.
What I love about what you said, right, because there's no shame in recognizing your humanity.
No.
But it's to recognize your humanity.
And we don't like to be self-aware.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. You saying that is one of the most beautiful examples of how we should be talking to ourselves every single day.
For sure.
And talking to God. Like, God, there's something in here. It's pride. I know it's pride. I know it's pride.
Because I have moments where I'm like, man, what's behind that? I don't want to be missing out.
For sure.
That's all it is.
Because
I don't want to miss out.
You gotta be honest. I want to be there. I want to be there.
And then I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay.
Yeah, because then when you say it out loud and you measure it, you like, all right, but I just needed you to know that I really would like to be there.
But if you conceal the matter from your own self, the enemy makes it bigger.
He will play with that.
But the moment you speak it out, the whole story you created becomes a lie because you're not honest with yourself.
Yeah,
for sure.
You created a lie. You created a story. You see people wrong because you can't see yourself right. How are you supposed to see people?
Exactly.
So,
yo, this is good.
This is good. This where we've been.
This where we've been.
It's been a lot of learning.
Kayleen got married and had a baby. I got married and was on the honeymoon and moving and doing all kinds of things.
I became a nomad.
Come on, somebody.
And we're sticking to the assignment, okay?
Yes!
Sticking to the assignment.
Yes! I love that.
This is so good.
We out here.
Yeah, in the room.
In the room.